Hello, younger oldie here, and welcome to my channel. I've been asked quite a lot recently about the different rules of obtaining a UK motorcycle licence. There still seems to be a lot of confusion with what people can and can't have, as the rules have changed several times over the last few years. So watch the intro and I'll explain exactly what you need to do and the advantages and disadvantages. So, you're 16 and you want to get yourself some motorised wheels. Well, your only choice is for a 50cc moped. It can be an automatic or a geared version, it doesn't matter. The only thing you need to do for this is actually a CBT, which is a day's course as mentioned in some of my other videos. But once you pass that, you can then go out, get yourself insurance and tax, and you can legally ride on the road. A 50cc bike in the standard restricted form will do between 28-30 mile an hour, so that's about the maximum you'll get out of it. The other disadvantage is you cannot take it on the motorway, even if you've got a full licence, but to be honest, you wouldn't want one on the motorway if you can only do such a slow speed. However, as soon as you turn 17, you don't have to retake your CBT. You can actually then upgrade to a 125. I'm not sure if that is a particular good law. A 125 would probably have 3 times the power of a 50cc. So but yeah, you can actually just change up without having to retake your CBT. A few years ago, when I first started instructing, you could take your test on a 125 as a 17-year-old, and once you passed it, you could then ride any bike as long as it was restricted to 33 brake horsepower, and you'd have to ride that for 2 years, and then you can just automatically go to any bike you like. But that's not allowed now. So if you were to take your test on your 125, yes, you have the advantage of carrying a pillion passenger, and yes, you can ride on the motorway, but apart from that there's no other advantage. I think hence the reason now we get very few people actually trained to take a 125 test. So if you're 17 and you're just going to get your first bike, you're still going to do a CBT as normal, but that will entitle you to ride any bike up to a 125cc. So you could have a 50 or a 125. The choice is yours. Obviously you will not be able to carry a pillion passenger, and you would not be able to go on the motorway. But apart from that, you can just ride the bike quite happily. It always seems strange to me that at 17 you can do your car theory test, do your practical test, and once you've passed, you can basically have any car you like, as long as you can afford it and of course afford the insurance. But for a bike test, 17 you can only have a 125cc. When you get to 19, you can actually take your A2 bike licence. Here again, you would need to have your CBT theory, and then you've also got to pass your Mod 1 and your Mod 2 practical tests. So really that's like 4 tests to get a licence. Once you've passed all these, you can get a standard bike up to 35 kilowatt. The bike must not be derived from a bike more than twice that power, so you can't get something like my ZZR14 and restrict that down to a lower power. As long as you don't reduce the power more than half, you're okay. Now we use 650cc bikes, and I've actually rode them, and I went out on one the other day and it was a restricted one, but riding around town doing a lesson, I didn't even notice it was restricted. That they are surprisingly nippy, and I suppose it's the first bike you can have with a reasonable sort of power band, but you've got to wait until you're 19 before you can achieve this. A full A licence means you can ride any bike you wish, any size, any power. Now basically there's 2 ways to get this. First, I'm going to explain what we call progressive access. Now this would apply to somebody who's had an A2 license for a minimum of 2 years, but you must be of the age of 21 or over. The sad thing is, once again, you've actually then got to take both your practical tests again, your Mod 1 and your Mod 2. But if you pass them, then you've obtained it. But that's the way you can obtain a full A license at the earliest age. Okay, now the other way of getting your full A license is to do it by a method known as the direct access. It's referred to as DAS. It's actually spelt DAS. Now the thing for this is you've got to be at least 24 years old. You need your CBT, you need to do your theory test, and you need to take your Mod 1 and Mod 2 practical tests. This seems to be the main way of people doing it now. Because if you're only, say, 22, you've got to do an A2 license, wait 2 years, which is 24, before you can actually go for your full A license. Now if you're 23, you can still do your A2 license, but then you've got to wait until you're 24 anyway. So most people just think, you know what, I'll just wait till I'm 24 and do my full A license. We don't get so many people now do A2 licenses, apart from the younger riders who are 19, and obviously it's a long way to go to being 24, so at least they get the chance to ride a bigger bike in the meantime. So to sum up, let's just assume you're 17 and you take your A1 bike test. You ride your bike for 2 years and then you decide to take your A2 bike test. Then 2 years later, oh, I think I'll go for my full A license, and you take your full A test. That means you've actually done your Mod 1 and your Mod 2 tests 3 times. That's 6 tests in total. I mean, that is a hell of a lot of expense. However, it's the only way to sort of get a full A license before you're 24 years old. So, you know, you've got to weigh up what's best for you, weigh up the costs, and how patient you are to get your full A license. Regarding the actual test, basically your Mod 1 test, you are assessed on low and high speed manoeuvres, and this is done on a purposely built training site. It usually only takes about sort of 25 minutes. That's the first part. Your Mod 2 is basically riding on public roads, and this you'll be followed by an examiner who you are in radio contact with. He will give you directions, and at the end of the test, it usually takes around sort of 30 to 40 minutes, he will then assess your skills and decide whether you've been lucky enough to pass or not. Always remember, your CBT only lasts for 2 years. So if you're planning on going to take your full license, depending on what age you are and which license you're going to take, don't leave it too late. Because the worst thing can happen is before you actually pass your test, your CBT could run out. And if it does run out, you've still got to retake a CBT before you can actually go and take your main test. I've known many trainees come along and they pass the CBT, they ride a 125 round, 18 months, and then they decide, oh, I'm going to get my full license now. And I have known it where somebody has failed their Mod 2 test, and by the time they've got the next test date booked, the CBT has expired, so they've had to retake it. So allow yourself plenty of time, don't rush it, and I wish you all the best should you go for it. Well, I hope this has cleared up any questions which you might have had in your mind about the tests. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you like it, please leave any comments, and it's always nice for you to subscribe. So once again, thanks for watching, ride safe, and bye for now.